Hey everyone, hope y'all are doing well out there. So I was lucky enough, and by that I mean it took a lot of time, effort, and money, but eventually I was able to get my hands on an RTX 3070, as well as a Ryzen 5800X, and an Oculus Quest 2. So I knew the first thing I definitely wanted to do was to get into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, which is already one of the best games for me of all time. But I did have to go in there and try the VR experience. I initially meant for this to be more of like a review, but being that I don't have a good way to test the performance or watch the FPS in-game through VR, and being that whenever I put the headset on and fly, I really just get lost in the whole thing. So I think I'll call this more of initial impressions and thoughts on just how the 3070 plays in Microsoft Flight Simulator VR. And maybe from more of a perspective of the player rather than from the numbers. So hopefully you guys can enjoy it, and let's go ahead and get into the game. But hey, let's go ahead. We're in flight now. We're at Lukla, which is one of a variety of very famous approaches in airports in general. But let's go ahead and get into our settings so you can see what we're running. Now we are on an NVIDIA RTX 3070, and this specifically is the MSI version. Our processor is running off of an AMD Ryzen 5800X, and we're running 32 gigabytes of RAM. So right now, I'll just go through some of the more important ones. The render scaling is going to be your biggest hit. Biggest benefit to performance impact there. I'm sorry, I'm in this guy's way here trying to get around me on the runway. Our anti-aliasing is set to the highest. To me it really does make a difference, even with a lower pixel headset on. It makes a huge amount of difference going to TAA, and for me that's worth the small frame hit that I'll take. But the biggest one again, render scaling, we're running this at 80 pretty well. And another big one is volumetric clouds I've got to low. So let's go ahead and fly and see how she handles. So keep in mind, there probably will be some choppiness. I'm seeing a little bit of choppiness now, to be honest, too. But also remember, keep in mind that we're screen and voice capturing at the same time here on this system. So I will say again, without the video recording and everything, it's as smooth as it can be with the settings that I have. Pulled a little too hard there on the stick. Alright, and here we are. It looked like it was a little bit choppy on the runway, but now that we're up, we're pretty smooth up here. And you can see I do have the trees on, so I do like to have the clarity and objects on the ground. I did promise we were going to look at that mountain range back there. Oh man, and that's beautiful. So you'll notice I'm moving my head really slowly here, and that's because I know that on screen the head movements are really exaggerated, when you're watching them on YouTube, so I'm trying to be conscious of my head movement. But I will say that when you are in the simulator and moving your head around, it's nowhere as nauseous as it is watching it, on a screen, on a video. Really, it looks like you're sitting here in a plane, and when you're looking around, it feels just as natural as it would in real life. So it's definitely not nearly as jarring or uncomfortable as it comes out on screen. And oh, look at that. You can see the sorry, I'm getting kind of geeked out here, but you can see really how far everything is, how high the mountains are above me. And so far the 3070 is handling it really, really nice. To me it's smooth. I'd say if not 30, maybe very, very high 20s, but for me it's as smooth as I can make out. I do get a little stutter, the occasional stuttered frame here and there, and I assume that's because I'm trying to record at the same time. But at least from my perspective, everything is looking nice and smooth. And one thing you're gonna get with the VR experience that you'll never get on the monitor again is, especially for an amateur pilot like me, wayfinding and navigating around. I feel like we're gonna go ahead and touch back down on the runway. And what I want to show is, you know, for a noob like me, I mean, this helps immensely in helping me trying to find my place, gauge my distances, and gauge my, you know, height in relation to everything else. Right now, on your screen, you'll see a mountain range at the top of the screen. You'll see a hill coming towards me. You'll see a runway below me. I'm kind of in the middle of the screen. But to me, what it looks like is there's a mountain range above me and a runway below me. It's not in relative to the screen. All of the scenery is in relative to where I am sitting here in this plane. And you can't explain it until you've been in the headset, really what that feels like. And you will not get any inkling of what it feels like watching it on a monitor. One thing too is how the gauges in each knob pops out at you. You know, it really feels like the flight controls are right up, you know, close to my face if I get near it. And I'm definitely not having to pay as much attention in terms of trying to guess where I am in relation to the runway, because here I have, you know, almost an absolute clarity of where the runway is and how I'm approaching it and where I am in relative to the runway, rather than trying to look around with predetermined viewpoints on a screen monitor. Whoa, how did that guy get up there? That's pretty cool. But yeah, coming in and approaching this runway here, we've got the hill right behind it, and beyond that, a higher mountain range. It just looks so beautiful. I mean, and the 3070 is pulling it off really nice. And again, I'm not by any means a good pilot, but it's just so much easier to fly, to me at least, in VR. It's almost, I would say, something like driving a simulator, where on screen it's hard to get corners and hit apexes, but in real life, when you're sitting in the car, you have a three-dimensional relation to where everything is around you, and you're not really having to think in terms of wayfinding and trying to make your way around. That part is taken care of, so you can focus on the other things, like your airspeed, your altitude, if your gear is down, which is a good thing. And you know, I've got to do this again. And again, flying over this cliff, you really feel the depth of that valley down below. It really feels like you're high up here.
Kathmandu Center, Petestrel Alpha Sierra, X-ray Golf Sierra is type Petestrel, Pivi 1 miles west of Victor November Lima, Kilo. Request, flight following.
And let's go ahead and enjoy a little bit more of the scenery. Oh, but that looks amazing down there. Look at the villages below. Oh, this is great. You kind of see the mountains in the back a little bit faded, you know, so it kind of helps to give you a perception on how far back, how far along they are down there. But it really doesn't get much better than this, guys. I mean, you're not going to get the 4K pixel count, and you're not going to get, you know, the 100 FPS that your monitor is going to get you, which you probably won't anyway in Flight Simulator. But again, I'm telling you right now, I don't know how it's going to look on screen, but for me, this is as smooth as can be, really, flying up here right now. Yeah, it's not the sharpest image ever, but I can read my instruments, I can read my altitude, you know, and I'm doing just fine up here. I wouldn't trade this for a screen experience, and sure, I'll play back on the screen every once in a while, but I definitely much prefer to be in this VR headset when I'm flying from now on, that's for sure. So anyway, oh wait, we've got to get another view down there. That's just beautiful. It really feels like if I were to lean out of this cockpit, I would fall right down there into that river. Okay, so that being said, we've got to try a new location. see how that comes out, and see how it plays in relation to this location. But I hope you guys are enjoying the views, because I totally am up here. Oh man, look at that. I kind of feel like a bush pilot right now, you know, looking for a little strip of dirt to land on. Oh my goodness. Wow. Alright, here we go guys, flying over New York, in a Cessna this time, a 172 I believe. And yeah, it's looking beautiful. I must say, we're not really at the fluid frame rates that we got back in Lukla, but still definitely playable enough. I see some minor choppiness going on here in my view, and I don't know how it's going to portray there in the screen. But let's go ahead and get flying around the city. I'm gonna just use the autopilot here so we can spend more time looking around us. Wow. That looks great. Yeah, so in New York again, I am seeing a noticeable slowdown from when we were out in the mountains, but I don't think it's enough for me to change the settings, and I'm assuming when it comes out on video it might look choppier on video than it does up here, but I'll just tell you from inside the headset I'm okay. It's weird, it's in that it's kind of fluid, but with maybe some stutters here and there. So rather than an overall FPS, I think I would call it more intermittent stuttering, if that. But it's definitely, to me, more than flyable. As in, I wouldn't change any settings. Also, knowing that I wouldn't be recording at the same time. But to have this level of detail and how it's running right now, I'm totally happy with. So I think the 3070 can run it quite well. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of make a U-turn up here, and it's going to be interesting to see how much tearing and choppiness we might get from doing this as we change direction here. It's actually not too bad. I can see the cockpit stuttering a little bit around me, but looking out at the city, it looks fine. It really feels like you're flying right over those buildings. Oh man. Alright, well I think it's time to switch locations. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, taking off at St. Baarts, I'm gonna let the I don't know if you have to do that here, but I'm gonna go and let the props build up before I let go of the brakes. It's a pretty short runway. Yeah, so we do have some choppiness rolling out of the runway, similar to what we had in Lukla. So I'm assuming because I'm rendering everything here up close to me, it's eating some of my my performance. But we'll see if when I get into the sky if it gets a little bit better. Kind of like how it did in Lukla. And the water actually looks really good up here. Oh, we've got a cruise ship out here. Very cool. Continue our climb up here. Yeah, looking out our shoulder here looks really good. Yeah, the getting off the runway and into the sky definitely gets the frame rates up again, and I'm back to a pretty smooth experience. Again, we have the occasional stuttering here and there. I don't know how it's gonna come out again on the video, but for me, I'm getting a smooth frame rate with an occasional stutter here and there. and also a great view of this island down below. This is great. Again, just being able to look wherever you want, and just the depth perception that you get with the headset helps with really everything. So looking back at the footage, the image quality in terms of the smoothness was definitely a little bit lower than I experienced in the headset. Again, I attributed that to the processing power needed to record the footage, and also probably a couple frames lost in translating the recorded footage to the frames that I outputted in the video editor. Again, to me the experience was pretty smooth. It's not 60 frames per second again, but in something like Flight Simulator, you're not going to be really detrimented by a lower level of frames per second unless you're running maybe in the teens or very low 20s. So who's this for? Well, if you're the type of gamer who really can't enjoy the experience unless you're getting 60 frames per second, if you're the kind of person who can't enjoy a game unless you're getting 1440p or ultra clear 4K, the experience on the 3070 with VR is not for you. I would doubt that the experience on VR with any graphics card is for you at this point. If you're a simulator purist, I also don't think this is for you at this point, being that the coordination with the VR headset and all of the controls is a little bit tedious, especially if you're flying long hauls on an Airbus or a 787 or something of that sort. Who this is for, though, is someone that might be able to enjoy the flight simulator experience maybe at 30 frames per second, maybe a little less, maybe a little more if they have a 3070. Someone who would be flying for fun, maybe low VFR type of flying. I would say this is definitely for you, and the 3070, especially paired with one of the newer processors, it'll definitely do it for you. I've been having a blast myself, and again, at least for kind of low-level flying for fun, just when I want to get in the sim and fly around and look at the scenery, the VR is always going to be the way that I go. Anyway, I am interested to hear maybe from the people who have tried Flight Simulator in VR, whether you have an RTX or a GTX and never tried it again because the experience was off-putting for you. Please leave a comment below on what your thoughts are on that. Also, thanks for watching and for hanging in here. I hope you enjoyed the video, but until then, I'll see you guys next time. Hey guys, I do want to ask that if you did like the video or if you didn't like it, leave a like or dislike. And if you did enjoy it, I would appreciate if you did subscribe. I do have a lot more content coming along the way and would love to see you guys next time.